I thank the gentleman. And that last question, I'm sure we're going to have follow-up on while we're here. We now go to the gentleman from California, Mr. Kiley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As a quick survey, Mr. Saddam, do you believe that the COVID-19 pandemic is over?
It was declared over, so yeah. And we were in this room without a mask, so pretty good.
That's right. Mr. Shia, do you believe the COVID-19 pandemic is over?
I think so.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Gresser?
I have to say honestly, no. I had myself contracted COVID last week, so COVID is still with us.
But as a public health emergency, would you say it's over?
Yes, as a serious threat to life and health around the world on a large scale, yes.
All right, so we'll count you as 4 for 4. The House of Representatives has passed a bill saying the pandemic is over. The Senate has passed a bill. The President has signed it into law. Our experts here agree. So why in the world would we be continuing and expanding a waiver that is predicated on the existence of a public health emergency? How does that make any sense? Professor Bush, how does that make any sense?
It doesn't.
So I think that in your testimony, actually in several people's testimony, Mr. Shia, we heard about how this proposal to expand the waiver would benefit China primarily. Could you just explain again why that's the case?
Well, I'm concerned that China might use countries that do use the waiver. The waiver extends for 5 years, so we've been at it for 1 year. But China might be able to use other countries who avail themselves as a waiver as a point of access for stealing technologies. I mean, the Chinese have identified medicines and medical devices as a key industry in Made in China 2025. Biotechnology is named as a key industry, and it's one of their former plans called the Strategic Emerging Industry Plan. So they're also investing outward. Particularly, I put in my testimony a report put out by a UN agency as well as a joint report by the China Chamber of Commerce for Medicines about how Africa might be a potentially beneficial place for China to make significant pharmaceutical investments. And one of the things that is appealing is that many of the countries there avail themselves of TRIPS flexibilities.
Thank you. So this is very concerning to me, and it seems to be part of a pattern. We discussed at a prior hearing of the subcommittee that the chair convened how this administration ended the China initiative. And so now we have several examples of administration policies with respect to IP that are potentially disadvantaging the United States vis-a-vis China. We've also seen talk from the WTO about potentially expanding this sort of emergency waiver to other types of emergencies, such as even green technologies. Mr. Saddam, do you see any limiting principle to this idea once we get in the habit of simply suspending IP if there's something that anyone could characterize as an emergency?
I think we have strong IP rights for a reason, and we should respect them.
Thank you. And as a final point, several people have mentioned how the real holdup was not IP protections when it came to global distribution of vaccines. And for evidence of that, I think you can actually look right here in the United States, where we had the same level of IP protection, but different states had a very different level of efficacy in terms of distribution. I will say in my own state of California, our state was dead last in the entire country out of all 50 states in terms of how effectively it was able to distribute vaccines. The irony is we had a governor who decided it was good politics to mandate vaccines left and right. He'd get in front of the cameras every day and announce new vaccine mandates, even did one for the only one in the country for school children. Yet when it came to getting vaccines to people who wanted them, we were the worst in the entire country because of a lack of administrative capability and effective governance. So I think that, in preparation for future public health threats, states who didn't do well, like California, would do well to study the methods of states that did do well, and that applies on an international level as well to those countries that had a difficult time getting medicines to their citizens, and that's something that perhaps our international organizations should be focused on as well. And frankly, I think this idea of continuing these waivers and expanding these waivers is a distraction for that. So thank you. I thank the chair for convening this hearing, and I yield back.
I thank the gentleman. We now go to the gentlelady from North Carolina for a round of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.